It's your boy Cameron back with another reaction slash breakdown video on Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 this time. What an absolutely incredible battle. Carved in the same vein as the Thriller in Manila, Holyfield, Bo 1 and Hagler Hearns. Who knew? I thought this was going to be an easy early night victory for Tyson Fury based upon the second fight. But Wilder comes back. So in this video I'm going to be unpacking a couple of the key trends that ultimately led to the outcome. Not going to be doing a play-by-play per se because I feel like that's been done to death. Let's get straight into it. So for me, here are the things that Fury did really, really well. Firstly, the mixing up of the cadence of the clinch and the clinch break, working in between those lines, not waiting for the referee to pick them up and stop. Dirty boxing in the clinch, overhooking Deontay Wilder's dangerous right hand and underhooking the left, allowing him to uncork that uppercut that he had so much success with. Time and time again, he forced Wilder to carry his weight. He'd get this headlock and basically push Wilder to the ground. And whilst that is dirty, if the referee's allowing you to get away with it, and you can see that it's taking a toll on the cardiovascular tank of Deontay Wilder, then of course you're going to continue with it. And Tyson did that brilliantly. Fury showed an ability in this fight to solve the pugilistic Rubik's Cube. That is adjusting a game plan real time mid-fight. He establishes once again that round 2, round 3, this guy can't fight in the clinch. So after the knockdowns in round 4, re-establishes this rhythm and turns the dial up to 10, much like Floyd did against Conor. Continues and keeps pushing Deontay Wilder on the back foot, forcing this chap to work at every single juncture, travelling the line of least resistance. The knockdown in round 10 for me was a thing of absolute beauty. Tyson Fury turning to Raiden from Mortal Kombat, being there 1 second and gone the next, ducks under and smashes Deontay with the right hand. Let me tell you why this was so special. For 10.5 rounds, Fury had been there for that punch. Wilder finally makes an adjustment and realises if he's going to win this fight, he needs to make an adjustment real time in the clinch. Fury had been there all night for the left hook off the clinch. But the one time that Deontay winds up and goes for it, of course Fury's not there again. Genius from the Gypsy King, doing one of these David Copperfield misdirection ones, now you see me, now you don't, and then smashes him with the right hand counter as Wilder looks to re-initiate the clinch. It's an absolute thing of beauty that can only happen because of Fury's cat-like reflexes, and that knockdown for me is the beginning of the end. I think the KO in the 11th round is more because Deontay's knackered than it being an absolutely lethal right hand. Wilder's not out, he's not totally out. You can see him use his hands to cushion his fall and he kind of gets hung up on the ropes a little bit. He's not out. He's had enough here. The expression on his face tells you that. And then to top it off, Fury jumps on the mic and serenades the away crowd and has Vegas singing along. He's incredible, this chap. A rising tide floats all boats as far as Tyson Fury is concerned and heavyweight boxing. This fight would have drawn more filthy casual mainstream eyes to boxing, and as far as retention, it's up to boxing to keep delivering, keep putting on these brilliant fights to keep new fans there. Now, what on Wilder? I'm not a massive Deontay Wilder fan. I don't like the fact that he doesn't have fundamentals. I don't like the fact that his bazooka of a right hand has thus far masked the deficiencies as far as his technical boxing and got him to places that he probably shouldn't have got to, if we're honest, if we're measuring him against his skill for skill. Nor do I like the pre-fight comments about being prepared to die, the fact that he hadn't acknowledged his deficiencies from the first and the second fight and blamed everyone except for himself. I don't like any one of these things, but as far as this fight's concerned, you have to rate Wilder for the heart he showed. Everything that he talked about before, about being a warrior, about earning the right to go out on his shield, he demonstrated in this fight. Round 3 should have been the end, but he comes back in round 4 and nearly finishes Fury. For all his technical deficiencies, it's criminal to question this man's heart. He was finished in round 3. Look at his face going back to the stall. He'd had enough. The chickens had come home to roost for Deontay Wilder. He didn't know how he was going to get through, but then he comes back out in round 4 and nearly finishes Tyson Fury, but for a long count potentially. Who are these dudes? These dudes are going on like Hearns and Hagler. 2 of the best back-to-back rounds that you'll ever see. Full of drama, full of back and forth. Wilder had no right, but nearly gets it done. You know, I can't help but feel that this was a bit of a missed opportunity for Wilder. in a fight, a heavyweight bout for the ages. He had a massive opportunity to get everything that he desires, that he craves for. The adoration and fanfare of mainstream America, and the respect of boxing scholars and fans across the world for the way he fought, the bravery, going out on his shield like that. But for a lot of people watching the way that he acts in the post-fight, the failure to acknowledge Tyson as the better man, the failure to show him respect and shake his hand, that all goes to pot. He puts people off. Nobody likes a sore loser, Deontay. This should be your crowning glory, big man. It doesn't sit well with die-hard boxing fans after such an epic gladiatorial battle that they don't see the loop closed, that you don't get the payback. Fantastic fight and wicked respect shown afterwards. That's what a lot of people are paying for, in addition to a brilliant fight. And because Deontay, for whatever reason, being a sore loser, being delusional about a second defeat straight, whatever the reason, Deontay ultimately deprives himself of that fan adulation and respect, because people like to see a good sport and sporting etiquette. Go and shake the guy's hand. You were the better man tonight, son. Fair play. What were Deontay's key failings in this fight? The failure to initiate and decline the clinch on his terms. Deontay wasn't working between the clinch initiation and the clinch break. Wilder, for the most part in the clinch, because of his cardiovascular deficiencies, used that time to rest. In Wilder's defence, he clearly hatched a plan with Malik Scott. They had a plan. Attack the body. This fella's far too evasive with his head. He's a genius. Cat-like reflexes that we've talked about already, sack the head movement off. Why didn't they stick to the plan? And to answer my own question, I think that's partially because Deontay lacked the cardiovascular resource to execute it. But nevertheless, mate, stick to the plan. It was working. And finally, amongst Deontay's failings, his skill set is just ridiculously narrow. He has one weapon, a bazooka of a right hand, one of the hardest punches that you'll ever see in the heavyweight division. But that is pretty much all that he has. The stutter step into the 1-2, the jab right hand, if you allow him to work at range, which for the most part, apart from round 4 and the latter half of round 10, Tyson Fury didn't do. Unfortunately for Wilder, the jab right hand off of the stutter step is dangerous enough at all to beat anybody else in the division not named Tyson Fury. And after 3 fights, that's just the bottom line. The unequivocal truth. I mean, Wilder can look good in the early runnings, but as the fight goes on in long form and normalises, then the bronze bomber, technically there is a chasm between the two. Now, can I talk to referee Moira for a second? I know he had his hands full, and I know that he was a last minute replacement for Ortega, and not to mention that these guys were prepared to clinch and fight in the phone booth for pretty much most of the fight. But nevertheless, this isn't good enough. NSAC, Nevada State Athletic Commission, you've got to get some proper referees in. Among Moira's failings as a referee, he was inconsistent calling the break. How about you do the old fight to get out? Let them know that you're going to let them fight, because this ultimately handicapped Wilder. Wilder's clinching and resting, waiting for you to come in. Meanwhile, Fury's working underhooks and overhooks on the left and right hand side respectively. Surely a Nevada State approved referee should be consistent at the very least in calling the clinch break. And what about the long counts in round 3 and round 4? At least he was consistent in that Wilder and Fury got probably equally long counts, but the very last Fury count was ridiculously long, 10.5 to 11 seconds anywhere. Now, it counted that Fury knew what the count was and was working to that. And had the referee given a true count, Fury would have been up by 10. But unfortunately, we'll never know, because Moira didn't give Deontay Wilder that opportunity. I understand the count was curtailed because Wilder didn't initially go to a neutral corner. But where is the count arbiter? That guy in the ring apron that automatically starts counting as soon as a fighter drops to the canvas. And then referee Moira, how long is it going to take you to assess the fighter's fight readiness once they've stood up? I counted the last one from the time that Fury gets back to his feet to the time when the fight restarts is about 20 seconds. Moira, this isn't good enough, mate. What could Wilder have done to Fury in those 20 seconds? You've given him extra rest time now. We're not seeing a true fight. NSAC need to have a word with himself. This isn't good enough. Who's next for Fury? He said already he doesn't fancy AJ. Imagine. AJ was only attractive when he held the belt, and I think that's fair enough. He's just talking his truth, isn't he? Why would you fight AJ if he doesn't hold any titles? We need to see this fight somehow. The biggest fight in boxing history. I'm not sure it will ever happen. I don't have AJ winning the rematch, but what do I know? And for Wilder, surely his corner need to have that difficult conversation with him about potentially hanging his gloves up. There's fights out there. And again, I've said that he will beat every other heavyweight, not named Tyson Fury. But does that give him the motivation he needs to carry on? I'm not so sure. Thanks for watching. That's been another video. If you like the content, smash the like button. And if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. As always, I've been Cameron, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.